It's a staple.
Mindi, I want to ask you the same question. What would you say has been the most challenging aspect of owning your own business?
I think for me, it's not being able to leave the business at the business. It never really shuts off. You take it with you on vacation, wherever you are. You're kind of tied to your phone, and you want to be available, whether it's to your staff or to your clients or to some opportunity that might come your way, and you don't want to miss out. And it's just very hard to leave that and really do anything else but that, and that's okay. I think you adapt the way that you live and the way that you work, and then you just integrate it so that now I can work from home. We use a lot of software to be able to do that. I can travel and I can still work. I don't have to be sitting in my office at my desk, but that's good and bad, and it's a challenge to have a healthy balance with that.
It is, and we're going to talk about that more in a little bit because we all have challenges. Amelia, I've got a question for you. What leader in your own life would you say has impacted you the most, and how?
I would say my father impacted me because he started iDocket, and he really beats to his own drum. And so one of the things that we started with was putting judicial records online, and that was back when internet wasn't even a thing. And so he really built his own roads in the industry. And so as I come in and I say, hey, I think I have a great idea to solve mental illness or mass violence, and he just listens to me as a great soundboard and as a visionary. And so I think as y'all look for leaders or people that you talk business with, make sure that you're talking to people that have a vision with you, that they aren't naysayers, because we do have people that are like, no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. Having that relationship with somebody, that's a different kind of relationship. Maybe your friends don't get what you're trying to do, so don't talk business with them. Be talking business with people that are going to help you grow. And so I think finding leaders that just get your personality, and be able to just sit there and sit on the porch and say, well, look at this. How could we improve this? And just constantly be thinking about improving in making an impact in society. I think that's really important, to find people like that and know who you can have those relationships with.
Yeah, and I love that you have that with your dad. I always tell my own clients, you need to have a leader in your life who supports you, and you need to have that mentor, but most of the time, let's not make that be like your mom or your dad, because you know what your mom's going to say every time you have an idea? That's the best idea I've ever heard. You should absolutely do that. You are the smartest person in the world. So I'm really glad that you're able to have that kind of a relationship with your dad. That's amazing. Colette, I'm going to move on to you. What do you feel like the most important qualities are for a successful leader to have, whether they're an entrepreneur or not?
The first one that I came up with, for some pretty obvious reasons if you know how our business is run, is managing a schedule. Avery might have been good at that, but I was not very good at that when we first got started. And I remember when it was just Avery and I doing it by ourselves, the first year and a half or so, there would be an appointment, and like 30 minutes before we would remember, oh my gosh, there's an appointment. So we're pretty relatable. I don't know about these guys. And so learning how to manage a schedule is huge. And then you throw kids in there. So get a planner and use it. That's a big one. Being flexible. There's going to be a lot of times that things don't go as planned, whether it's the appointment, whether it's your market trip, whether it's, whatever you're wanting to do. Things are going to fall through. Things are going to cost more. We did renovations recently and opened up a new space, and so many of those bills came back way more than we were planning for them to, or things, weren't able to be, walls weren't able to be built, So, and then learning confidence. I spoke on that a little bit earlier, but if you're not confident in yourself, then your dreams are not going to come true, and you're not going to be able to get that business to full fruition. We were two young 24-year-old women that people weren't very confident in. You kind of mentioned the mom thing with them being very confident. Our moms probably weren't very confident in us, but we did it. So, and then we also talk a lot about having a servant heart and teaching our workers through our example. I feel like it gains more respect if they see you changing, changing things, taking the trash out, they're going to do it because they want to do it and they see you doing it, and you're gonna have more respect in those terms.
Yeah. No, and I enjoyed working with y'all, and we talked about this the other day. We had a few arguments when we were working on setting up your business when y'all told me that you hadn't been in retail before, and I was like, I just really need both y'all to go get a job at David's Bridal for like a month, just like a month, and figure out
You're
how
like,
retail works. And I'm
"Okay,
so glad
Gina."
now that you didn't listen to me.
We didn't listen to that advice, but that was the only one.
No, I'm so proud of y'all. Mindi, I want to ask you the same question. What do you feel like are the most important qualities for a leader to have?
I think probably the theme throughout my career, and it touches on what Colette just said, but is team. It's teamwork. And I actually started out as a legal assistant before I ever went to law school, again, because I don't know a single attorney. I don't even know really what they did. So I worked at a law firm in Dallas, and they were so gracious to me as just a college graduate with a psychology degree who could barely use like Microsoft Word. And but they taught me a lot about how to be a team, how to grow and learn, and it was okay to make mistakes. It was better not to try to cover them up. It was better just to admit the mistake and move forward and learn from it and ask for help next time. And so when I graduated from law school and started working at more of a traditional law firm, I'll call it, that teamwork didn't exist. Everybody had their role. There were attorneys, there were paralegals, and there were legal assistants, and they were kind of in a hierarchy. And you just didn't see that. You didn't see the attorneys taking out the trash, right? And for me, it didn't feel like a team, and I felt like that was what I needed to succeed. It was what the law firm needed to have better culture, to retain employees longer, to attract younger attorneys. It was to feel like we were all going in the same direction. We all had the same vision, but nobody was too good to do anything. And we would all pitch in if a project needed help or it needed hands or it needed another set of eyes, like anyone would be available to do that. And we wouldn't be the last ones there and the first ones to leave. So for me, leading it's not about authority. It's not about a title. It is really how you act with your team, and whether you are really a part of the team or you're just trying to delegate to something you're calling a team, but it's not really a team.
Absolutely. No, and I'm glad to know all of you, and I think you all have those same qualities that Mindi talked about, and glad to be a part of the College of Business. If you weren't here a little bit before we started, if you were here, you would have seen the associate dean with a dolly dragging chairs downstairs for me, because that's just what you do as a leader. I think you pitch in and you do what needs to be done, and nothing is ever below you. So it's a great group to be with. Amelia, I've got a question for you kind of on that same line. I know you talked about your dad, but do you have a mentor or any group of friends that supports you, and what does that look like? How do they make sure that you're successful?
Sure. And so I think it's important to get involved in your industry. So I like to make money. I like social justice. I like things like that. And so I attend conferences. On LinkedIn, I follow all of my competitors. I follow different associations, the National Center for State Courts, investments. I always laughed at my Instagram. If you ever looked at it, you're like, you take financial advice from her? And I'm like, but she's like really successful. And so I think it's really important to surround yourself as we spend time on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, be looking at women-owned businesses, because you're going to get so many different ideas that, I follow kids' toy stores, but I run a business, but somehow that still relates. So I think it's really important. And how I found my mentor group is I just happened to stumble across them as I'm working in the industry and I'm applying to RFOs. I found somebody in Austin, Cooper Consulting. She has 40 years of experience in state agencies, and she's really cutthroat. And so when we met Melinda, it was very intimidating, and that's where it goes back to what Colette says, is have confidence, is that she's not saying things to you to tear you down, but she's just being realistic. And so talking to Melinda, she tells you need to be more succinct, or you are, that makes no sense. Why would you say something like that? But I don't take it to heart. She's trying to improve me. And so I think finding mentors that are able to, where you don't take offense to what they're trying to say, you have to be able to accept constructive criticism. And I think that it really helps me talking with business partners, because we all go to bed each night, we all wake up, we all get dressed the same, and we either are an employee or an entrepreneur, but we're all the same. So just because he may be the dean of the university or somebody that takes out the trash, we all want to have and live together in this world. So I think it's just important that you don't get intimidated by talking to really important people, because you are also a really important person, and you're growing into an important role. So I just think really surrounding yourself constantly by what you want to be, that's how you'll kind of grow into and find different ways to do that.
I love that, and I love that your group of mentors is diverse, and you're not just limiting yourself to your own industry, because you may have somebody like a Mindi or a Colette who does something completely different every day, but you're still running a business at the end of the day. Numbers are numbers at the end of the day, and they may be able to give you some feedback that somebody in your industry is blinded to, because you're all looking at the same thing every single day.
Right.
I love that. Mindi, I want to ask you the same question about your mentor group who supports you, and I think I could probably give your answer because you are one of the people who supports me along with Amy. I'm very grateful for y'all, but what does that look like for you?
I will start by admitting it's really hard to make friends when you're an adult. You just don't have the same interactions. I hope you guys are making and keeping lifelong friends right now, because you have the ability to have common interests and spend time together and learn and grow together. But as you get older and you start working and you have kids and you have families, friendships kind of fall by the wayside. And so it gets harder to make friends and keep friends. Mm-hmm. But I have made some great friends, and two of them are here today, Gina and Amy. I don't want to say I was like intentional about pursuing friendship with you guys, but we just kept showing up at the same places.
You were stuck with us. You didn't have a choice.
And we all work in different sectors. But the thing that has helped me the most is they are a huge resource for me and for my clients. I don't have the answers to everything. I don't know all about banking decisions. I don't know when a client's ready for that line of credit, or when they should talk to someone about, what their financials need to look like in order to qualify for that loan. But I know who does know. It's Amy. And so I can call her, text her, email her, and I know it's taken care of. I can just say, Amy, I have someone for you. Can you please help them? And she will do it. And same with Gina. I mean, we just have a lot of synergy between us because we work with other small business owners, and I know what resources that she and her office can provide that I can't necessarily. I can definitely meet with you and we can have a conversation, and I can help you with the things I can help you with, but I'm not a one-stop shop for everything. But Gina and the people that work at the SBDC have been doing this for years and years. They've seen all kinds of things. They can do research on your industry. They can teach you about payroll. They can help you with QuickBooks. They can help you with Google. Those are things that I need help with, honestly. And so it's just been invaluable to me to have friends who are not necessarily attorneys. I can't get together with them and tell them about the latest crazy story necessarily because of my confidentiality rules and things like that. I don't always get to share all my best stories, but I can definitely get together with them and just talk about what are you seeing in the industry? How are your clients doing? What challenges are they facing? And it's almost always there's a common theme of what's going on and how are we going to approach that and how can we best serve our clients. And so I don't know, again, how to make friends except to just show up to things. And it's like Amelia said, if you care about what you're doing and you pursue your interests, you're eventually going to find people who have those same interests. And then you're just going to have to ask them to go to coffee or ask them out to lunch and say, hey, I'd like to be friends. Do you want to be friends? And
sometimes we talk about business, and sometimes we talk about having to feed our kids chicken noodle soup every Saturday.
Exactly.
But it's good to have those friends. Yeah. Colette, I've got a question for you. How has your education helped in your business? And Colette is not a College of Business graduate. And I don't know that she expected to be using her education like she is, but it worked out.
So I have a corporate communication degree. And it's kind of funny because whenever I would tell people that I was going to school for communication, they would just kind of look at me and say, what are you going to do
That's
with
cute.
that? That's cool. And I would say, I don't know. It's just fun. So, but there are real jobs out there in communication, and it is a really fun degree. So but I use it every day. I communicate with brides. I communicate with our reps. I communicate with other business owners. It's a huge tool to know how to communicate correctly. Learning nonverbals, learning how to public speak. It's a big deal. So if you're not sure about business is good too.
It's number one.
But, yeah, it's number one, but comm is number two.
Amelia, same question for you, and you kind of have a similar story. You're definitely not using your degree like you thought you would, but
Right.
how's it helped in your business?
So I actually am a WT grad. I had a equine business degree, and so I am a city girl that had a passion for horses, and so this is what drew me to WT. And I was on the equestrian team and the horse judging team, and mind you, I had never even touched a horse. I've never even been in a barn. And so when people would say, oh, you're a cowgirl, I'm like, no, I'm a student athlete. Like, I'm not a cowgirl. So that's something that, forcing myself and putting myself in a position where I was out of discomfort, going to World and Congress and having to, like, all these horses are in the arena and you have to place them and go and talk to judges. It's like very overwhelming because I'm like, I didn't see any of that. So I'm going to have to fake it and be very convincing. And so that's something that has really allowed me to, as I talk to people and I talk to business partners, is listen to what they're needing and be able to turn that into what you can provide them and kind of fake it till you make it. And so I think just, being a college student, equestrian team, horse judging team, it was a lot. And there was times that I did want to give up. And my dad said, you started it, you have to finish it, you committed to the team. And so I think right now, as a student in college, get involved in clubs. Utilize your relationships with your professors, your advisors, because they're here to help you and that's their job. And so I just really think that I really got a full experience from WT, and everything was paid for, all the horses, tack, all of that stuff. So it's not like I was I think we had to pay $20 a weekend for show fees. So it wasn't something that wasn't attainable for me. Where like different universities, you have to have a horse and a trailer, and it's, it's way expensive. So just utilize what you have here at WT because it is a great asset in the Panhandle. And it's really neat just to even being post-grad, being part of the SBDC Innovation Outpost, Amarillo College, things like that. It's a great business industry that we have here, and just make sure you're utilizing it while you're in school.
Absolutely.
Go Buffs.
Yeah.
Thank you, Colette. I didn't even have to pay you to do that. And Colette, you mentioned being confident in all that you do in business and leadership. And I love, Amelia, that you touched on, keeping in touch with your professors and working with them and leaning on them for support as a student. I wish that's something that I had done, but I was too intimidated. I thought these were these lofty positions that sat in their offices in a leather chair surrounded by books, and they didn't have time for me. They do have time for you. That's literally what they are here for, and they want to work with you and they want to support you. So I'm really glad that you got to have that experience. Mindi, same question for you. Now that I know that we both kind of have sort of a same path starting out, how has your education impacted your business?
This is why our lunches feel like counseling sessions.
They actually do sometimes. Sorry, Amy. If you
I
ever
know.
need us, we're here for you.
For me, education has been everything in my career. I didn't graduate from WT, but I did take a lot of summer classes here and winter classes and all the classes I could take to just try to graduate on time. And this campus was really accessible as opposed to Texas A&M and College Station, which was so big. And so when I would come home, I'm from the area, but when I would come home, I would try to take as many classes here as I could. And I loved them. The professors were great. The classes were small. Just got to meet a lot of great people. But I think when people ask me about whether I would go to law school again, or if they're thinking about going to law school and they have questions about that in particular, I I would go to law school again, even if I was never going to actually practice. And it's because I learned a lot about myself through the process of law school, but I learned a lot about the law and a lot about contracts and a lot about things that business owners need to know, whether they are working with an attorney or they're navigating a situation on their own. But the background that I got in the law is just invaluable. I would do it again and again. I might do some other things differently, but I would definitely go to law school. And I think it can be a difficult decision when you're deciding. I know that higher education is expensive, and there's a lot of talk about student loans and things like that. And so you have to make that decision for you. I did have student loans, and I had to pay those off over the years. But again, I would do it again just to go through that process. I gained a lot of confidence during law school because it was a situation. I went from A&M where the classes are like 200, 300 kids. You're just in a huge auditorium. You're never going to get called on. You can sit in the back row and do your thing. And as long as you show up and take the test, you're going to be fine. Law school is different. The classes are smaller. You're getting called on. You have to stand up and sort of orate and go through a case and explain the rationale and why did the judge do this and why did the dissent say that. And that was way out of my comfort zone. Standing up and talking in a group of strangers was definitely not something I wanted to do or that I liked doing, but that you exercise that muscle every day and you get better at it. And I had a few days where the professors were like, this girl does not have it together. And I didn't have it together. But just doing it every day, just the repetition of it was probably the best thing for me. It's just, I'm just going to stand up, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it again, and I'm going to do it again tomorrow. So education for me anyway has been everything.
I love that. You definitely have to do hard things to succeed, things that make you uncomfortable, but that's okay. While you have the mic, I've got another question for you, Mindi. Did you always know that you wanted to own a business?
Good question, Gina. No, I did not. I would say, if anything, I probably did not want to own a business. My grandparents on both sides were farmers, and if you know any farmers, they're very entrepreneurial. It's a difficult business to be in. It's like a gamble every day. You never know. You can't control the weather, and you can't control the price of corn. And my parents were both very sort of anti-farming, like, let's get away from that as fast as we can. And so they just started working at a young age. But I remember a time, I was probably in early middle school, that my parents decided to start a business together. And it was still in the industry that my dad still works in. But so they started this business together. It was very exciting. And it was great for our family. My dad was home more. We were able to hire some of our family. My grandparents worked in the business. My cousins worked in the business. As a kid, it was awesome to go to, my parents' office, and my family was there, and it was just really exciting. But the business failed, and it didn't work. And when my dad closed the business and had to go back to work outside of that business, he was gone a lot more. He had to travel. And so for me as a kid, I'm sure it's a totally different experience for my parents if you were to ask them. But as a kid, it was kind of devastating for me to have that big change and that big upheaval. My dad being gone a lot more, and he was traveling out of state, and kind of just changed my childhood a little bit. And so I think, whether I knew it at the time or not, that kind of changed my perception about business ownership. I saw how hard it could be. I saw that it might not work. And I saw that there was maybe more security in working in a larger company. Maybe the bigger the company, the less likely it is to fail. And so that's kind of the perception I had. So I definitely didn't start out to start a business at all. If anything, I just took the long, winding path to get here that I did, probably because I was fighting it a little bit. But it's been great, and I would do it again. I would do it sooner. All the things that people talk about, don't be afraid of it, no matter what your experience has been. But no, I did not want to start a business.
But I bet you learned a lot on that winding path. Yeah. Colette, what resources would you say have been most impactful in starting your business, running your business? What do you recommend?
So the SBDC They're
I didn't pay you to
awesome.
do that either.
Yeah,
you're
she
on a roll today,
didn't.
Colette.
But truly, it was amazing. Whenever we got started, I think we even took one of our babies to the very first meeting that we went to. We had a little business plan, and we took it to her, and we said, Gina, what do we do? And yeah, she helped us in so many ways, even since, after years after being open. I think we went to her again for something else. So she's been really awesome, and it's free. Like, I want to, like, really, guys, it's free. So that's just crazy to me that they can help you and mentor you in so many ways, and it's free. We also took a class, maybe 2, with her, or with the SBDC, and that was really helpful too. I remember learning something about taxes in that class and thinking, oh my gosh, if you screw something in, you have to pay taxes on it? Like, so Avery, don't screw anything in, you know. But then also the CEDC, which is the Canyon Economic Development Center. Evelyn, she doesn't work there anymore, but she was amazing. She was one of our biggest cheerleaders. They gave us grant money to open. Definitely talk to your EDC, your local EDC, I guess it would be, and see if there's any grant money available, because they're just handing it out for people that they believe in. So 2 huge resources for us.
Oh, thank you. I think a lot of people, especially in the smaller towns, forget about the EDCs being there and that there's funding for the small businesses. Definitely something to pursue if you do consider entrepreneurship. Amelia, I've got a question for you. I don't like to think of anything in the past as something that I regret. I don't regret anything I've done. But if there's something along your journey as an entrepreneur that you could do differently or better, what would it be?
Just learn to reset faster and stay positive, and really focus on things that you can control, because having to make payroll, get the kids from daycare, make sure you remember the soccer uniform. Also, an employee happens to be quitting. Things of that nature is all happening in the 20 minutes, but right before you need to leave the office. And so that's something is like, you can control certain aspects of things, but what you can't control, be okay with missing things or not being perfect, if you will. And just as a business owner, is being able to reset with every interaction. So if I'm in a meeting with a bunch of developers and we may be having a discussion and things aren't going as smoothly, I don't need to have that negative energy carry over to my next meeting. Always reset with every interaction that you have, and have a sense of humor. So we always laugh about like people making weird comments. So I have a baby, I breastfeed, and my pump is going off on Zoom, and this guy kept making comments about it. And I was like, okay, this is just kind of embarrassing, because we're all laughing, like we all know Amelia's pumping right now. And he just kept making comments, but like at the end of the Zoom call, he made himself look silly. And so that's where I treated it with a sense of humor, and I didn't take offense to it. And so that person just made themselves look silly. So instead of being offended or like it was awkward for all of us, just don't let it be awkward and have a sense of humor, because if you don't let things roll off your shoulder, I think back in the day, I took myself a little too seriously, and then I'd go home and be so offended all night that somebody did this to me, and my husband's like, I didn't even do anything wrong to you. Like, why are you taking it out on me? So that's where I really like to make sure I reset in any interaction that I have with people, because you didn't do anything to me, it was somebody else. So I think just really being able to have that sense of humor, and just really, it allows you to work faster, and you're going to have a lot of struggles and even failures as a business owner, that you just have to treat it with a sense of humor.
Yeah, I love that, and it's something good to remember in your personal life as well. You can't take yourself too seriously.
Right.
Yeah. Mindi, if you could give one piece of advice to everybody in the room who might be considering entrepreneurship, what would that be?
I think it's something that's been said throughout the morning, and it's to use the resources that are available to you. I think we live in a wonderful area. We have kind, welcoming people. We are used to having to do things on our own. And so in addition to resources like the SBDC and the West Texas Enterprise Center and the EDCs, there are just a lot of great people that live and work in Amarillo and Canyon that have started businesses, worked in businesses, failed at business, you name it. and they're not inaccessible. Like Gina was talking about, your professors are here for you. That's why they're here. And that's the same I think in the business community. People don't ask me all the time about, what was law school like, or what do I think about law school, or things like that. But if anybody does, I'm more than happy to talk about it. Same with starting a business. If you ever want to talk about that, call me, email me. And I think the same could be said for these ladies as well. We all are willing to share our successes and our failures and what we would do differently. We could talk all day probably about those things. And I think we just live in an area where if you were in Houston, I don't know if you would have that same opportunity that you have here, that you can literally pick up the phone. You can ask, somebody, do you know this person? That's someone that I look up to or I admire, or I've heard their story and it's, something I'm interested in. You can probably get a meeting with that person. As crazy as that is, when I moved back to Amarillo was still a big town to me. I grew up in Nazareth. There's like 300 people there, and I know all of them. So Amarillo was still like, whoa, this is huge. But again, I kept going to things, and I kept running into people, and I started shaking hands with people that I had heard about or I grew up knowing of. And I'm like, wow, I'm in the same room with this person. But it goes beyond that. I think if you want a meeting, if you want a mentor, they exist, they're here, and we just live in such a great community that we have those resources, and you should take advantage of them, definitely.
Definitely. Colette, same question for you. What would be your piece of advice?
So I mentioned this before. No one agrees with me on this advice, but having a partnership, so many people, it doesn't work out for, and a lot of people are very against, but our partnership has worked really well. Maybe it's because of our personalities. I'm not really sure. There is going to be a lot of compromise, and there's going to be a lot of give and take, but we trust that the other person is doing what's best for the business, and they have the best intentions. So sometimes whenever we have our ideas that are kind of shut down, we realize that one's better. If you can step back and get off your high horse, you realize their idea might be better. But it's an amazing thing, because I get so excited about it. It's an amazing thing because you can have an idea and then they are like, oh yeah, and then you start going back and forth, and this idea turns into this amazing concept. And yeah, I think having a partner is amazing. Whenever I've had babies, she's been able to just step up and take care of everything, and vice versa. We can lean on each other, and we have a lot of fun together too.
Yeah, we've kind of talked about the importance of mentorship and having support, and really you kind of are your own mentors, even though you are going along the same journey together. Yeah. You are able to be there for each other, and you see things from a different point of view. You've got different skills, for sure.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
I love that. Amelia, if you could pick out one thing that you think is the biggest challenge in entrepreneurship today, what is that in your industry?
That it's very fast-paced, and you have to sacrifice time with your kids, your family, your friends, and you really have to stay ahead of what your competitors are doing. And so you don't get a lot of sleep as a business owner, and especially as a mom. So we wake up at 5, get everyone ready, out the door. I'm working at 3 o'clock, from like 3 to 8. I do family, and then from 8 to midnight, I'm back at the computer. And so that's something that lifestyle doesn't really work very well for a lot of people, but it is seasonal too. So being able to really dedicate and say, I'd love to catch up on whatever TV series you have, but it's, end of year, we have to do QuickBooks and we have to do this, and it's hard work. It's not hard work, but it's just time consuming and detail oriented, that be willing to sacrifice time, because it's not an 8 to 5 job. Especially like you say, being able to turn off. And so I don't work on Sundays. And so that's something that I have a really hard boundary on, is like, I won't turn on my computer. I don't have my cell phone on. And that way I don't mind working nights, because on Sunday, I'm not doing a darn thing. So just make sure you're able to sacrifice your time and be willing to do that.
Definitely. I'm glad that you can turn off on Sundays, because that's really hard to do without feeling guilty.
Yeah, but I have no shame, because I worked really hard all week.
You worked very hard. I know, because we're emailing each other at 5 in the morning. I know that you are. Definitely. Mindi, what would you say is the biggest challenge in entrepreneurship today?
2 things came to mind with this question. The first is regulations. I think, again, I said earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And when you're starting a business, there's a lot of things that you don't know. And so there's taxes, for example. You have to learn about, so just regulation, just figuring out if you're going to start a business, making sure you understand what type of licenses are required or what permits you might need, or what a EIN is and how does that work and how do I set up payroll and all those things that the SBDC can help you get started with. The Enterprise Center can help you with as you're growing and needing more mentorship in those areas. There's more and more regulation, which is not a bad thing all the time, but it is something you have to keep up with. And so I think that can be a challenge for someone. It's just a hurdle that you have to get over, and you have to get over it very quickly because the IRS is not going to wait to get paid. I hate to tell you, but the other thing for me, at least in my business, is in the last 14 years, I've noticed more of a shift towards everybody wants everything on demand. I'm not Google and I'm not LegalZoom, and so I'm just a person and it takes me time, and so I've got to set expectations with clients about how long this is going to take or what it's going to cost or those kinds of things, and I can't always give an exact amount or an exact time. And so that's just been a struggle for me and I don't blame anyone because I'm the same way. When I want to know something, I want to know it right now. And when I want my package delivered, I want it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And so I get that we're all sort of moving in that direction in all areas of our life. But it's just something that we are going to have to manage moving forward in our businesses.
Yeah, I see the same thing, and I'm guilty of the same thing sometimes, yeah. Colette, what do you think is the biggest challenge right now?
So I think you could still consider it right now, even 5 years ago, but we were two very young women with a big dream, and we needed a lot of money. And so we did not get a whole lot of support. We didn't get just a ton of support from our families. We still have a group of friends who still come up to us and say, I believed in you from the start. And that's really nice to hear that. But being a young woman, and that's kind of where you go back to confidence. You just really have to have the confidence to get it going, and you have to believe in yourself because other people may not. And, there were a lot of people that did, so I can't say that there was just nobody. My sister's out here, so she's like, I did. But there will be a lot of people that don't. And I think Canyon is amazing because we had so much support from Canyon. I mean, people were so excited. People knew about us before we even announced anything. They were like, are y'all the bridal store? And we were like, yes. And so the bankers were amazing. Just, yeah. It's an exciting time. Canyon's awesome, but be confident in yourself.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we're almost out of time. I've got a couple more questions, so give me quick answers. Mindi, what would you say is been the most rewarding aspect of entrepreneurship for you?
For me, the reward of starting my own business was one that you get to do it yourself. So you succeed or you fail, it's on you. But it's allowed me to do a lot of other things that I wanted to do, but I didn't feel like I could do in a larger organization where I was having to report to other people and be accountable. Now I'm more so just accountable to myself. And so my time is more my own, and I've been able to do a lot of other things like investing and working more in real estate than I was able to do before.
Yeah, it's hard to be accountable to yourself sometimes because not always the best person for that. Amelia, what would you say is the most rewarding aspect of entrepreneurship?
That the sky is the limit. And so with iDocket and the technology and just like AWS and working with global partners, we work with people in India and Europe and Latin America, and we all have the same problems. And so one of the biggest things is my kids are in the school system, and school shootings is a really scary thing. And being able to have the opportunity to go to that table and say, well, what about predictive analysis and what about emotional workflows? And being part of that community is really rewarding because my husband's in law enforcement, and my kids say, Mommy protects law enforcement people. Aww. And so it's funny because they're really, it's a good opportunity.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah. Colette, what would you say has been the most rewarding thing for you?
So seeing the numbers, that's a really cool thing. We paid our loan off in April, I think, of this year. Thank you.
Yeah.
We were very, very excited about that. And then whenever we originally met with Gina, we said, so there's a busy season with bridal dresses. We said we would sell 4 dresses for 8 months out of the year and 8 dresses a month for 4 months out of the year. And we counted up last year in 2021, we sold 207. So it was really, really cool. We were so excited about that. So seeing the numbers and like everything, all the payoff, it's really cool. And then also just how we're affecting our children, like you said. For Dash's graduation, they asked all of the kids, his kindergarten graduation, they asked all of the kids what they wanted to be when they grew up. And he said a store owner. And, oh man, rips you to pieces.
I love that. Thank y'all. We have one final question that we all agreed to add, because I think it's something that we all wanted to address, is just mental well-being and not thinking that you have to have it all together to be an entrepreneur or a leader. Not too long ago, we won't say how many years, was you out in the audience sitting at events like this. And I remember looking at people up on this stage thinking, well, they have it all together. They know what they're doing. And so if I want to do what they're doing, I'm going to have to get it all together first, because there's no way that I can be successful until I have everything together. And I'm here to tell you that not a one of us on this stage has it all together. It's something that we all struggle with daily in different ways as leaders and entrepreneurs. As a leader, sometimes we have to be strong when it's really difficult. We have to be strong for our staff. But I can promise you every week, some of us has something going on in our personal life or something at work that is incredibly stressful that we also have to deal with. So no, we don't have it all together. And so we just really quickly wanted to share some stories with y'all so that you understand kind of what is life really like as a professional, and what are some ways that you can guard your mental health, because it's so important. And I'll tell you, there's a project that I'm involved in at work. It's a learning community. If you're not familiar with learning communities, it's where a group of people come together and you explore a topic and you try to solve problems. And I was asked by a friend to co-facilitate this, and we were going to explore workplace mental health and culture. I was like, that's my thing. Like, I want to be involved in that. I was on board, and so we spent months developing curriculum, and we launched this, and we took applications. And I sit in my office and I look at this list of applications, and it's like a hospital CEO and a doctor and the superintendent of a school district. And I thought, well, like, this is it. The dean just needs to go ahead and fire me right now, because I'm in way over my head. Like, what could I ever have to offer those women? Because clearly they have it all together because of the positions that they're in. And I'll tell you what, we meet every month, and every single one of those ladies is struggling with the same things that I struggle with personally or professionally. There are things that they don't know how to deal with at work, but it's really important to come together as a group of mentors and friends and work through those things. And don't be afraid to be vulnerable and admit where you're weak and what kinds of things that you need help with. Trust me every single day that there is something that I need help with. I'm trying to be strong, but there's always something every day. I don't know who I have next. Colette, what would you want to add to that about kind of guarding your mental health as a leader and an entrepreneur?
Right. I would have someone to lean on, someone that you can relate with, and someone you can kind of hash it out with. Sometimes I'll call my sister and just say, let her know everything that's kind of going on, and she can understand that. Of course, partnerships. Avery's there for me. We can really lean on each other and let the other one know when something is hard. Or I think Avery had a day where we had 9 appointments that day and not one bride bought a dress.
Aww.
And I think that was probably her hardest mental day, because that'll just put you in a funk, because you also need to make money, but you want our brides to say yes too. And so those things can really mess you up, and you just kind of have to take a day off and just not focus on it and speak with someone about it and then move on. But then also, if you feel like it is something that maybe needs a little bit further extension of help, as in medication or something natural or therapy, please do it, because it helps you so much more than you might even think that it will.
Absolutely. There's no shame there. Amelia, what's worked for you?
I think just be mindful with what you share with different people and keep relationships appropriate. And so at work, I'm business, and at home, I'm mom. And so that's something that I really try to make sure not to let those relationships really bleed into each other, because then, like, if they kind of bleed into each other, you can never really escape. And so I just think it's really important to be mindful with who you share things with, stay private, and then also have somebody definitely to lean on. And if you need help or therapy or anything like that, it's all there. And so it's something, seeking a therapist and talking through these things, that's something that you should utilize. It is the norm, and people do need it because we deal with a lot of different things that it can be overwhelming if you don't have a outlet.
Every day, every single day. Yeah, I love that. Mindi, I know you and I have kind of talked about having some of the same really strange post-COVID funk. I don't even know what it would be now, but struggling a lot at work to keep up and feeling overwhelmed. What's worked for you?
I think the two things that have helped me the most are a little bit of self-reflection. I don't do, something different every day. I don't learn a new skill. A lot of what I do is the same. I'm just dealing with different people. They might have a different problem or a different issue that I'm trying to help navigate. But when I'm really stuck in something and I'm feeling overwhelmed and I'm thinking, I'm never going to get through all of this stuff. I'm never going to finish this project. This thing's going to kill me before I finish it. I have to use that self-reflection to say, you know what, actually I've been here before. I got through it then, I'll get through it now, it will pass. I will, I know because I've done it. And like I said, back in law school, I was showing up every day and doing it, even though I didn't want to, and it was hard, but the more you did it, you just exercise that muscle. But you have to remember that too when you're in that moment. You have to be able to tell yourself in that moment, I have done this before, I will do it again. Work on ways that, how'd you work out of it last time? And something that a therapist told me a few years ago that has helped me a lot is, sometimes I need to get out of my mind and into my body. And that's just when my mind is spinning and I don't know what to do next and I'm feeling overwhelmed, I just have to walk out the door and I need to go on a walk, I need to get on my bike, I need to be in nature, whatever you like to do, but you just have to shut the mind off and let the body work. And so just go move around, dance, do whatever your thing is, but just your mind's going to just keep going until you find a way to force it to stop doing that. And the best way to do that is just to move.
Oh, I like that. And you're good about moving because I always see you taking walks around my window, but I don't get out of my seat. I just sit there and I watch you take walks, and I'm really impressed. Amy, you and I kind of talked about this a little bit earlier. Do you have anything that you'd like to add about what's worked for you? Because you have a lot on your plate. How do you deal with everything?
I think burnout's a real thing, and I'm definitely a person that will work hard, and there's no really such thing as balancing. Whoever made up that word is lying to you. There's no balance. There's no work-life balance. It's just whatever you get to focus on that one time, and the other thing has to give a little bit. So there's times where I have to work, and the family life is going to have to give a little bit. And here I'm having mommy guilt, which we talked a little bit that I wasn't able to do X, Y, Z, but it's okay because this right here has to get my attention. And my family knows that it's important to me to pay attention to work because my work pays pays our lifestyle. But also as a working professional, my reputation, everything I do is important to me. Taking time for yourself too, which I'm really bad about doing and moving. I try to work out. I would like to work out 3 times a week. I work out twice a week. Try to take a walk. When things are really stressful, I like to you have to step away and give your mind a rest because I'm the type of person I'll dream about work. And so I'm still trying to figure that out. And I don't know the real answer to that, but what we're doing here today and talking about it and making mindful that burnout and being a working parent and trying to balance everything is hard. But if you surround yourself with good people and just be aware of it and mindful, you'll be able to address it. And then you can know the symptoms when you have to step away and just take a break. And it's okay to take a break. You have to let yourself know, I just need 15 minutes walk away before I really throat punch somebody.
So long as it's not your boss, okay? Don't do that. No, and for me, it's been really important. I'm sure you figured it out. Mindi and Amy and I spend a lot of time together. And sometimes they're calling me and they're saying, we need to go get breakfast or we need to go get lunch. And I'm like, oh, I really don't want to, like, I wanted to sleep in that day, or I'm really busy at work and I don't know if I can get away. But you have to have those people who push you and they recognize, hey, something's not quite right with Gina. She's obviously stressed today. And sometimes they have to drag me to lunch, but every time we do it, I'm so grateful that I have those people in my corner. So thank you. So I think we're about out of time, but we did promise some time for Q&A. I'm glad to walk around with a microphone if anybody has anything that they want to ask of any of the panelists, or Amy as well while she's here. Of course, Brian has a question. Brian always has a question.
I will be here till 10. What was the most challenging aspect of hiring that first employee? Because that's a big moment in the life of a business owner, because now it's not just you. You're responsible for someone else. So would you mind answering that?
I kind of have a good one, because our first girl came in, like I said, a year and a half. We'd done it by ourselves, and it started to get overwhelming too quick. And so we hired her, I think maybe Tuesday, and that Saturday we asked her to come in, and she just worked an appointment the very first day. And we just kind of threw her in, like, sorry, Ellis, this is you. And we didn't know what we were looking for at first. And we've refined that now, and we can ask a lot of different questions. We're doing interviews right now, currently, actually. And so it was kind of tough, because I think we just really got lucky. But I do remember just throwing her in. And we're still good friends with her. We laugh about it now. She worked with us for about a year. And we have had to fire people. So we've had a bigger journey with the people that we work with. But yes, it is a journey. And now we actually, in this last set of interviews, we did like a mock work with the bride, and that's been very helpful, because just personality and making the bride feel comfortable is what's most important for us.
I love that. Y'all have anything else you'd want to add to that?
It's really hard I inherited employees, but it's hard to hire new employees, because this new job role in your head is what you want them to do, but what they actually do is sometimes night and day. And then especially, like, we have very professional careers, so they may have left a long-term career. So you have a social responsibility to your employees to, this is what we thought you were hiring, this is what you're doing, can we somewhere meet in the middle? So having employees is always a journey that you just have to be comfortable, like, the way they do it is gonna work. It's not how you're gonna do it, but find that happy medium.
Oh, that's hard. Yeah, that's really hard.
Yeah, knowing that they're representing your company is a big deal. I mean, that's the major thing.
Mindi, do you want to add anything before we wrap up? Okay. Well, thank you all so much for being here. I know there's a class that's about to start, so y'all need to get out. We will be around for a little bit if you have questions. But like Mindi mentioned, go out and do hard things and be leaders, whether you're entrepreneurs or something else. So thank you so much for joining us today. Good work. Thank you.